Objection!
So if you watched part 1 of my Ace Attorney series review, you would know that I absolutely love the Phoenix Wright trilogy with a burning passion, so be sure to go back and watch it if you want to get an idea of why I do. But as I also said there's a lot more to the series than just Feeney over here, so let's just waste no time here and get right onto the direct sequel to that trilogy, Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. Watch out world, here comes Justice. In Apollo Justice, you play as Mr. Fine himself, Polly, and now it's his turn to make a name for himself in the field of law. And really, when you think about it, with a name like Justice, I'm gonna guess he didn't have that many options. But what about everybody's favorite Phoenix, you may be asking? Well, he's had it a bit rough since you last saw him. He lost his attorney's license after trials and tribulations, so now he's become a bit of a bum, and he will bother the hell out of Apollo at every waking chance he gets. Again, the life of a Phoenix is a tough one. And your new assistant this time around is Trucy Wright, Phoenix's adopted daughter. They do go into plenty of detail about that, but unlike Maya Fey, her specialty is being a magician. Kinda less cool than channeling spirits, but you know what, I'm okay with it because she is the epitome of adorableness. Seriously, how Phoenix surrounded himself with such eccentric women, I have absolutely no idea, but you know what, I don't judge. They probably love the spikes. Now the game itself is pretty much exactly the same to how Phoenix Wright was. Investigations for clues and evidence, and a very chaotic courtroom. That much stays the same. The only two main differences are that first off, the game is a whole lot prettier now since this was the first game in the series built for the DS, and then instead of Phoenix's Magatama item to detect secrets, Polly has like this weird bracelet thing that like slows down time and zooms in on people to tell when they have unusual twitches, which, you know, that means that they're lying. It's definitely an odd mechanic, that's for sure. Now, interestingly enough, there's actually a group of people out there who don't like this game all that much. And unfortunately, guys, I'm kinda one of them. Out of the game's 4 main cases, the only ones I like are the first and last ones. And funnily enough, that's because there's a strong spotlight on Phoenix for both of them. Cases 2 and 3 are very bleh. The third case has a pretty cool idea, but it's executed pretty poorly. And in case 2, please, how am I supposed to want to defend Waki Kataki when he is an obnoxious a-hole? Really, the characters this time around are very weird. Don't get me started with Spark Brushel or Wesley Stickler. They are like the worst characters in the entire series. And then there's also Clavier Gavin, your rival prosecutor, and on the side, a huge rock star. Now he is a pretty cool character, I won't lie there, but the thing is, Clavier kinda likes Apollo, which removes a lot of animosity between them during the courtroom segments. So with the prosecutor you don't hate, and defendants you don't really want to defend, that's pretty lame. Now don't get me wrong, of course there's a few good characters there. Like again, Trucy Adorable Wright is like the best character in the game, and then there's returning Emma Skye as the detective, which leads to some really funny moments. But overall, the bulk of the game is just very uninteresting to me. But on the upside of that, there's actually a really well done overarching story with a main antagonist who's probably the most evil and conniving in the series. So thankfully, the final case is par for the course, meaning excellent. So I will definitely give credit where credit is due. And to also be expected, the soundtrack is great. But awesome tunes and overarching story aside, that is unfortunately all I can give Apollo Justice, honestly. I would recommend it to big Ace Attorney fans for that great overarching story, but that's about it. Sorry Polly, your debut wasn't much of a great one. Although I am impressed by how you have your hair like that. Again, credit where credit is due. Next up is a total shift in the series, Ace Attorney Investigations, Miles Edgeworth. Now here you take control of Mr. Cravat himself, and as you would imagine, solve murder crimes. But this time around you actually have full control of Edgeworth and investigate the crime scenes more hands-on, and then interrogate people right on the spot. It actually is a pretty big shift for the series. And of course you have your wacky crew of people alongside you as well. Lovable goof Detective Gumshoe, whip lover Fraulein Franziska von Karma, a new loudmouth rival Shi Long Lang, and your new assistant Kay Faraday, master thief in the making. Yeah, a prosecutor is hanging out with a thief and is totally cool with it. Aight, but while the gameplay shift is a great new twist and it's very welcome, it of course all comes down to the story, and I find it a whole lot more interesting than Apollo was. The entire game this time around is pretty much based on a sole overarching story that takes place over 5 cases, that also take place out of chronological order, which is another new thing for the series. There have been flashbacks here and there, but nothing like this. Like in Case 1, Edgeworth comes back from vacation, and in Case 2, he solves a murder that took place on that flight he took to get back home. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really cool. Now, Feeney has his Magatama, and Polly has his bracelet. What does Edgy have? Straight up, logic. Now that is a man if I ever seen one. Nothing crazy this time around, just his incredible logical genius. Okay, wait. I did kinda lie. Kay has this little thief device that recreates a one-to-one holograph of the moment of the crime in front of everyone's eyes so you can get an idea of how something could take place. But you know, aside from that, nothing too crazy. And you'll never guess this part, the soundtrack is fantastic. This time though, it has a bit of a different feel. There's a lot more piano and a lot more of an orchestral feel this time around. Overall, the shifting gameplay is a great new twist for series fans. It makes everything feel a lot more seamless while still keeping what makes Ace Attorney, Ace Attorney. The stories that you're thrown into are top-notch, leading to possibly the most creative villain in the series. The soundtrack gives the game its own flair, and even though this game was actually handled by a bit of a different team than the previous games, even a different story writer, it is still a great spin-off. It doesn't top the Phoenix trilogy, but as far as post-Phoenix goes, some people may say Apollo is better than Edgeworth, but I gotta say the cravat tops the 2 pointy hairs of justice any day. Now this leads us to the most depressing part about being an Ace Attorney fan. There's actually a sequel to Investigations. It released in Japan in early 2011, and as of now, it has stayed there with no signs of being released elsewhere. It sucks. Bad. Now I have tried to keep a lot of the details hush-hush just on the off chance I do get to play it, but from what I can gather, you're now joined by a guy who is Edgeworth's father's assistant, as well as a new rival who's actually a judge who wants to take Edgeworth down. Seriously, that is easily enough to make any fan of the series want the game. But alas, Capcom is currently holding the game hostage, and considering how the company is sort of running right now, I find it highly doubtful that I'll ever be able to put it on my shelf with the rest. Now, there are people out there who are translating the game themselves, so there are and will be ways to experience the game in English, but again, the fact I can't put it on my shelf is very depressing. At least I can vouch for the soundtrack, you know that much hasn't changed. But overall, it's just a really crappy thing that Ace Attorney fans have to sit through. Maybe we'll see it released somehow in the future, but until then, it kinda sucks. But that does lead us to a brighter future because there are 2 more games that we won't have to wait very long to finally get to play. Phoenix rises from the ashes and returns to the courtroom along with Apollo Justice and a new attorney, Athena Sykes, in Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies for 3DS releasing later this year. Did you get the joke that I did? Because phoenixes are known for rising from the ashes? Okay, well the game thinks it's clever, so damn it, I do too. Now point 1, I am completely ecstatic to finally play another Ace Attorney game, and I love that it's just another game to add to the 3DS's ever-growing library of great games. But, point 2, outside of Japan, it is digital only, meaning 3DS eShop only. Of course Capcom would do something to piss me off. Heaven forbid they do something like a limited run on their website, but hey, I'm not them, thankfully. And then next year we get the amazing looking crossover, Professor Layton vs. Ace Attorney. And really, what is there to say? Epic core romantics, completely crazy characters, and this time you're joined by the awesome professor, his assistant, and a slew of puzzles? I need this game injected into my veins. Now at the moment, it seems like this will thankfully be a retail release, unlike Dual Destinies, so please do not ruin this one for me. This has been my most hyped 3DS game ever since it was announced, so I will be damned if Capcom ruins this one too. And now we move on to some extra stuff to talk about, like Phoenix being playable on Ultimate MVC 3. That's pretty crazy, but Ace Attorney has shown me what crazy could possibly be, so it just ends up being pretty awesome. Then there's also this special DS cartridge that released with an Apollo Justice Special Edition in Japan. It's called Gyakuten Saiban Dictionary, and it actually chronicles everything from the Phoenix Wright trilogy, from the locations to characters as well as a jukebox. Don't have that one yet, but I am definitely on the hunt for it. Then there's an awesome official art book that has, for some crazy reason, gotten insanely expensive in the past year, going for well over $100. I don't know why that is, I didn't pay that much for it, so it's up for you to decide. And there's even some official remix soundtracks too. You have a ton of orchestrated remixes, jazz remixes, and a favorite of mine, a remix album from the group Magical Trick Society. Honestly, just look up any track from that album and you will fall in love instantly, trust me. And last but certainly not least, the first game was actually made into a feature movie in Japan. And here's the kicker, It's actually really good. It does miss the mark in a few areas, like it's not even nearly half as crazy as the game is, aiming for a more slightly serious tone. Gumshoe and Maya are incredibly underutilized. Red White turned from this to this, which is jarring as all hell, and despite being on the soundtrack, I am pretty sure the orchestrated version of the amazing corner theme never plays, which is practically an injustice. But it still does do a pretty good job recapping the main points of the first game, mainly highlighting the fourth case. The runtime for the movie actually comes up to a bit more than 2 hours, so there was definitely a lot to cram in that time. They even made sure to have a scene dedicated to Phoenix mindlessly exploring, just hoping he could find something useful. I would obviously recommend playing the game first, but think about it like this. This fantastic video game series has a pretty good movie tied to it. That is pretty awesome. And guys, that is now pretty much a wrap up on the entire Ace Attorney series so far. The main Ace Attorney team would go on to make Ghost Trick Phantom Detective for DS as well, and there are a few others out there that end up being compared to Ace Attorney quite frequently, but all of those are for another time. As I said before, this series is something that I always love trying to get people to give a shot. Almost to an obnoxious degree, I'm not gonna lie, but what are you gonna do? I just hope that by looking at the series as a whole now, these games become a bit more than just that one lawyer guy who points a lot and yells objection. Okay, who am I kidding? That's what it really is anyway. But still, the series has a special place in my heart. And if you stayed tuned throughout this entire retrospective, you're pretty awesome. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, thanks for watching, and as always... Hold it! Nope, that ain't the one.
Take that!
Nah, that's not it either.
Objection!
Okay, that one's not even Phoenix.
Objection!
There we go.